It was one of those perfect sunny days that makes you forget about the world's darker corners. I decided to take my paddleboard out on the lake, hoping the clear water and gentle waves would ease the clutter in my mind. I'd been out for maybe an hour, just drifting and soaking in the warmth, when something caught my eye underwater. At first, I thought it was just a clump of weeds or a fish, but as I leaned closer, my heart skipped a beat. It was a hand, a human hand, pale and seemingly detached, floating eerily below the surface. Panic didn't hit me at first. Instead, curiosity did. I wondered, morbid as it could be, if it was real. I poked it with my paddle, half expecting it to dissolve into the water like a mirage. But it didn't. It was solid, real. And then it moved. I should have paddled away right then, and I know that now. But I was frozen. My eyes locked on this macabre sight. The hand began to rise, slowly, deliberately. I could see now there was a part of an arm attached, torn and ragged at the end, like something or someone had ripped it off. My breath caught in my throat as the realization dawned on me that whatever this hand was attached to might still be down there. And then, as if on cue, I felt a tug at the underside of my board. Once, twice, a steady pull that sent a ripple of terror up my spine. I finally snapped out of it, paddling furiously to get away, every splash of my oar sounding like a gunshot on the quiet lake. I didn't look back until I was safely on shore, my heart pounding so hard I could barely hear anything else. I don't know what was in the lake that day, or why it let me go, but I do know one thing. I haven't gone back to that water, and I never will. Every time I even think about it, I wonder, what if it hadn't just been a severed hand? What if it was a warning, or an invitation? And what waits beneath the surface just biding its time? It was supposed to be a fun day at the lake. Just me, a few friends, and the kind of reckless abandon that comes with the first real burst of the summer heat. We'd found this spot a few weeks ago, a secluded lake with a massive rock jutting out over the water. Perfect for jumping off. It became our little weekend ritual. That day, the sun was beating down hard, and the water looked especially inviting, glinting under the bright light like a sheet of glass. I climbed up on top of the rock, the rough edges scraping lightly at my palms, my heart racing with a mix of excitement and that teeny, nagging fear of jumping from so high. I stood there for a moment, looking down at the shimmering water below. My friends were cheering, their voices echoing off the water, urging me to just go for it. So I did. I jumped. The rush of the air, the sense of flying, it was exhilarating, just as it had been every time before. But this time, as I hit the water and plunged beneath the surface, something felt off. The water enveloped me, colder than usual, and heavier, like it didn't want to let me go. Before I could swim up to the surface, I felt something wrap around my ankle. It wasn't like any plant or underwater debris I've ever felt. It was strong, like a hand, with a grip that was both desperate and deliberate. I tried to kick, to scream, but the water muffled my cries and weakened my struggles. I was pulled deeper, the light from the sun fading into a haunting, murky glow above me. I clawed at whatever had me, my fingers scraping against what felt like rough, scaly skin. Then, as suddenly as it had grabbed me, the grip loosened. I propelled myself upwards with everything I had left, bursting through the surface, gasping for air, the sounds of my friends' laughter turning into cries of concern as they helped pull me to shore. I never saw what had pulled me down. The others speculated it was just weeds, that I'd gotten myself tangled somehow. But I know the difference between plant and predator. Something in that lake had me in its grasp. Something alive, something strong. We never went back to that rock, and over time, our group stopped talking about the lake days. But sometimes, when I'm alone and the world is quiet, I can still feel that cold, suffocating grip around my ankle, pulling me down into the dark, and I wonder what would have happened if it hadn't let me go. It was a foggy morning when I decided to take my kayak out on the lake. The mist was thick, hanging over the water like a veil, obscuring the banks on either side. It was so dense that I could barely see a few feet in front of me, but the water was calm, and the solitude seemed perfect. As I paddled through the fog, the only sounds were the gentle lap of the water against my kayak, and the rhythmic splash of my oar. It was peaceful, almost eerily so. The farther I went, the more it felt like I was moving through another world, a place suspended in time and muffled from reality. Suddenly, I heard a splash somewhere off to my left, louder than the soft disturbances my own movements made. I stopped paddling, straining my ears. It came again, closer this time, a definite sound of something entering the water. My heart started to race, but I told myself it was probably just a fish or a bird, nothing to worry about. I resumed paddling, and then I heard it. A whisper, so soft it was almost swallowed by the fog. "Help me," it said. I froze, my oar halfway through the next stroke. "Please, help me." The voice was clearer now, desperate, coming from the mist ahead. I moved towards the voice cautiously, my eyes searching the white blanket in front of me. "Where are you?" I called out, my voice sounding small and absorbed by the fog. "Just here," the voice called back, and then there it was, a silhouette in the mist, another kayak, half submerged and listing to one side. My breath caught in my throat as I approached. The figure sitting in it was slumped over, unmoving. Heart pounding, I reached to touch their shoulder, to check if they were okay. But as soon as I made contact, the figure dissolved into the mist, the kayak with it, as if it had never been there at all. Shaken, I looked around, but there was nothing. No trace of another person, no disturbance in the water. Had it been a ghost? A figment of my imagination, fueled by the fog and the isolation? I paddled back as quickly as I could, the fog seeming to press in on me from all sides. When I finally made it back to the clear air, I didn't look back. Whatever was on the lake, trapped in the fog, I left it behind, but the voice still haunts me. Sometimes, when the mist rolls in, I can still hear it, faint and pleading, carried by the damp breeze. "Please, help me."